Hi, my name is Rebecca and this is my YouTube channel, obviously, and I'm going to tell you about the books I read in May. Okay, so book number one is Where My Heart Used to Be by Sebastian Faulks. This book is about Robert Hendricks, who's a doctor who has sort of a mysterious past and is, full of unresolved pain. And he gets a letter from a mysterious French gentleman who has links to his father, who died when Robert was very young during the First World War. And yeah, it's a really interesting book. It sort of charts this man's life through the 20th century, from his childhood during the beginning of the 20th century during the First World War to his service during the Second World War, through until I think the 80s, 90s. It's really interesting, and it sort of deals with the effects of the First and Second World War on sort of England throughout the 20th century, which is my shit. So I really liked it, and the last sort of 10 pages were utterly devastating, truly one of the few books to make me sob hysterically. So I would highly recommend this book. I've actually had it for a while. I think I got recommended it for a 3 for 2 offer at Waterstones. So yeah, buy that one. The second book I would not recommend is Rebecca Solnit's A Field Guide to Getting Lost. I couldn't even remember what it's called. So I loved A Hope in the Dark. It was probably one of my favourite political books I read sort of last year, because I found it very uplifting, very getting you out there to sort of encourage you to get out there and protest. It was very heartening in the wake of Brexit and Trump and all that. So I had high hopes for this, and it was just not that great. It was just sort of it's a memoir / essays, and I just found it very meandering. There wasn't really sort of a central theme beyond getting lost, which I can understand that was probably the intention, but it wasn't for me. I'm very I like structure. So yeah, unfortunately I think I only gave this 2 or 3 stars on Goodreads. So yeah, would not recommend, but I would still recommend A Hope in the Dark, but I wouldn't recommend this unless you're sort of interested in that essay memoir type writing that's fairly meandering. Okay, the other book I read was this huge book called Ma'am Darling by Craig Brown. I actually got this for free. I found it on the side of the road in London, especially South London. People will do this thing where if they want to get rid of stuff, they would just leave it on their front porch. So I found this one. There was a pile of books and I picked this one up because I was that looks like a big book than an expensive book. And it's really interesting. So it's a biography of Princess Margaret, so the Queen's younger sister, who was a pretty notorious figure during the 20th century. Sort of ask your parents about her. But it's told really interestingly through the memories of others, through their sort of dinner party anecdotes of Princess Margaret, which I thought was really interesting. It was a very much not your typical biography style, which I really appreciated. And it wasn't so many sort of royal biographies totally up their ass. Personally, I'm fully anti-royalist, get rid of them, but I do love reading about them, and this kind of scratched that itch of giving you lots of juicy details about the royal family, but at the same time looking at them with a sort of critical eye, which I think is sort of not afforded a lot of royal biographies or royal journalism. So I really appreciated that, and it was also just funny. It was really funny and enjoyable to read, and even though it was massive, I think I finished it in 3 or 4 days. Then I read the much hyped and much talked about Convenience Store Women, and again I really like this, would recommend. Again, very in contrast to sort of Ma'am Darling, very skinny, so easy to digest. I think I literally read this in a day. It was really cool. I really liked it. it's definitely an interesting look at sort of capitalism and consumerism and the exploitation of workers kind of through a non-Western lens. And also, yeah, I think it's just, as someone who works in retail as well, like a lot of it was kind of like scarily familiar of the whole like how wrapped up you can get into the routine of the shop and how you feel rewarded and part of something, and like you have purpose. So that was really interesting, so would recommend. Then the last book I read was a science fiction novel called The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula Le Guin. You've probably heard of her before. Yeah, I really liked this. It's very not the typical sci-fi that I'm used to, because it was quite almost like a fantasy sci-fi. But I really enjoyed it, and it's basically about a world in which it's about a world called Winter, where there is only one gender, and everyone is the same, and it's about a alien who is a ambassador for sort of like a huge alliance of alien races who's trying to get the citizens of Winter to join their alliance, and sort of this world through his eyes, and how he's trying to navigate the politics of it, and also like the differences in sexual politics. Really, really interesting. However, this is, I think, the 4th book in a series, and I didn't know that when I bought it, and I kind of wish I started from it. I did Google if it was like you can read them all standalone, and apparently you can, but I feel like I would have appreciated it more if I'd read the other ones. So heads up, maybe start from the beginning, because that's what I'm going to do after this. I really enjoyed it, but I feel like I might have enjoyed it more if I'd started from the beginning. But that also might just be like my own sort of anxieties, and like I have to start every book series from the start, I have to start every TV series from the start. But yeah, that's what I read this month. I hope you found it useful, and yeah, bye.